Humanity, to the sprawling, ancient civilizations of the galactic conquered, was a perplexing anomaly. They were young, barely out of their planetary cradle, having stumbled upon faster-than-light travel by what most elder races considered a cosmic accident. Their societies were a riot of conflicting ideologies, their technological advancement uneven, and their understanding of galactic history laughably shallow. They were seen as boisterous, somewhat chaotic newcomers, prone to unpredictable flashes of brilliance and equally unpredictable blunders. Insignificant, mostly harmless, and certainly not players of any real consequence on the grand cosmic stage. The Zalosian Enclave, a species who had catalogued nebulae before humanity had discovered fire, referred to them privately as the accidental tourists of the cosmos. This perception began to crack, not with a bang, but with a beep. Dr. Aris Thorne, no relation to the archivist of Viridia, though perhaps a distant cousin sharing a penchant for forgotten things, was an astrophysicist with a reputation for chasing fringe theories. He wasn't part of any major Earth institution. He operated a privately funded deep space observatory on a rogue asteroid designated Thorne's Folly by more mainstream colleagues. He was obsessed with anomalies, particularly gravitic distortions, and unexplained energy signatures in unexplored regions of the Orion Spur. One solar cycle, while sifting through sensor data from a particularly empty patch of void, Thorne's custom-built anomaly detector began to emit a series of rhythmic pulses. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was structured, intentional. Tracing the signal led him not to a ship or a beacon, but to something else. A colossal artifact, previously cloaked by technology that absorbed all conventional scans, had momentarily revealed itself due to a nearby magnetar flare disrupting its ancient stealth systems. It was vast, a sphere of interlocking, impossibly smooth black material, easily the size of a small moon, drifting silently in the interstellar darkness. Thorne, naturally, did what any self-respecting fringe scientist would do. He flew his small, souped-up survey ship, the Quirky Quark, out to investigate, transmitting his preliminary findings to a few trusted, equally fringe colleagues. He expected to find an inert relic, perhaps a forgotten outpost of some long-dead race. As the Quirky Quark approached, the sphere remained impassive. No hailing frequencies, no defensive measures. Thorne ran every scan his ship was capable of. Most returned nothing, as if the sphere wasn't there. But then, a low-frequency bioscanner, one he'd jury-rigged himself, pinged. A faint, incredibly complex genetic signature resonance. It was human, or something so close to human DNA that his scanner couldn't tell the difference. "That's impossible," Thorne muttered, his brow furrowed. "This thing has to be millions, maybe billions of years old." He maneuvered the Quirky Quark closer, his heart pounding. As he passed within a certain proximity, a section of the sphere shimmered and a small aperture opened, bathing his ship in a soft, pulsing blue light. An invitation, or a tractor beam. "Well, Farley, old girl," Thorne said to his ship's AI. "In for a penny, in for a galactic mystery." He guided the Quirky Quark inside. The aperture sealed behind him, and the interior, far from being dark, was illuminated by the same soft blue light, emanating from intricate patterns crisscrossing the walls. At the center of the vast internal chamber was a raised dais, and upon it what could only be described as a celestial orrery. But this was no mere mechanical model of stars and planets. It was a colossal, three-dimensional holographic projection of the entire galaxy, rendered in breathtaking detail, with nebulae swirling and stars pulsing with light. And it was moving, shifting, but not in any way that matched current galactic charts. A control interface emerged from the dais as Thorne approached, a smooth, featureless panel. He hesitated then, on a hunch, removed his glove and placed his bare hand upon it. The effect was instantaneous and terrifying. The orrery blazed with light. The galaxy within it spun, accelerated, then locked onto a specific region far beyond the known galactic rim in the intergalactic void. Symbols, utterly alien yet somehow resonant, flared around this region, symbols of warning, of ancient conflict, of an encroaching, unimaginable dread. Then the orrery began to realign itself, its star patterns shifting, its nebulae reforming, not to match the current galaxy, but to something else. A different configuration, an older one. A voice, ancient and synthesized, yet with a strange cadence that Thorne felt he almost understood, echoed through the chamber. Genetic imprint confirmed, lineage verified, awakening protocol, harvester prime initiated, threat vector, unintelligible alien syllables approaching, orrery recalibrating to precursor war footing. Thorne stumbled back, his mind reeling. Harvester prime, precursor war footing, what in the stars had he just done? His ship's AI, Farley, spoke, her usually calm voice tinged with something akin to digital awe. Dr. Thorne, I'm detecting massive energy surges from the artifact. It is broadcasting, on all frequencies. And sir, the broadcast is not targeting local space. It's aimed at the intergalactic void, and its power output, it dwarfs anything in known human or conquered history. News of Thorne's discovery, and the artifact's sudden, galaxy-spanning broadcast, ripped through the galactic conquered like a shockwave. At first, it was dismissed by the elder races as another human blunder, some foolhardy explorer activating a dangerous toy. But the sheer power of the artifact, its impossible age, verified by multiple independent scans once Thorne transmitted its location, and the nature of its broadcast, a complex tapestry of mathematical constants, celestial mechanics, and what appeared to be tactical data, could not be ignored. And then there was the DNA lock. Only human DNA, or something indistinguishable from it, could activate the orrery. This was the detail that sent a chill down the spines of the Xylosians, the ancient Cathar logicians, the ethereal Lumini, and every other elder race. Humans, the galactic toddlers, were somehow keyed to a precursor artifact of unimaginable power and antiquity. A high-level Conquered Emergency Council was convened. Representatives from dozens of species, including a bewildered human delegation hastily assembled, gathered to analyze the data pouring from the Thorne artifact, as it was now being called. The Xylosian chief archivist, a being of crystalline thought named Index 9, presented their initial findings. The artifact designates itself Harvester Prime. It appears to be an automated celestial warning system and potentially a strategic command center, created by a hitherto unknown precursor civilization who called themselves the Harvesters. Based on linguistic deconstruction of its initial broadcast, this civilization fought a protracted, galaxy-spanning war eons ago. A Cathar delegate, his logical mind struggling with the implications, added, the threat vector it indicates originates from beyond the known intergalactic medium. The symbols associated with this threat, they are not in any known linguistic database. They evoke concepts our translators can only render as that which consumes light, or the silent hunger. The most disturbing revelation came from the Conquered's leading xenogeneticists. After analyzing the trace genetic markers the orrery had sampled from Dr. Thorne, they concluded, human DNA shares an undeniable, statistically impossible number of complex marker sequences with the Harvester genetic template recovered from the artifact's activation logs. The humans are not merely similar. They are an echo, perhaps a deliberately dormant or devolved lineage. Silence fell over the council chamber. Humans, the chaotic, emotional, unpredictable humans, descendants or remnants of a precursor race that had fought a war against an enemy so terrible it had to be designated by symbols of cosmic dread. Suddenly, human chaos took on a new, terrifying meaning. Their rapid, almost haphazard technological leaps, perhaps echoes of ancestral innovation, their inexplicable resilience in the face of adversity, their stubborn refusal to give up, not youthful naivety, but a deeply ingrained survival instinct honed over eons of conflict. Their emotional volatility, their capacity for both incredible altruism and shocking aggression. The fragmented remnants of a psyche forged in a war beyond comprehension. Even their junk DNA, long a puzzle to human scientists, was now suspected of holding latent harvester abilities, memories, or even blueprints for precursor technology. Earth wasn't a cradle. It was a seed bank, a dormant arsenal. The orrery continued its work. It wasn't just broadcasting warnings. It was subtly, almost imperceptibly, beginning to affect subspace itself, realigning ancient energy conduits, awakening dormant precursor devices scattered throughout the galaxy, devices no one had even known existed. Small, almost insignificant human colonies near these newly active precursor sites began reporting strange phenomena. Latent psionic abilities flaring in individuals, old Earth myths and legends suddenly feeling frighteningly relevant, children drawing symbols that matched those on the orrery. Dr. Aris Thorne, now less of a fringe scientist and more of a reluctant prophet, found himself at the center of a galactic storm. He worked with conquered linguists, trying to decipher the orrery's more complex outputs. One phrase it kept repeating in relation to humanity was the shield protocol, dormant, awaiting rekindling. It implies, Thorne explained to a stunned, conquered council, that humanity, or the harvesters, weren't just fighting this enemy. They were containing it, that our entire evolutionary path, perhaps even the specific conditions on Earth that led to our development, might have been engineered. That we are, or were, meant to be a shield against something far worse than any of us have ever imagined. The oh shit moment was a slow, dawning horror for the galaxy, culminating when the orrery projected a simulation of the threat vector arriving. It wasn't a fleet of ships. It was a wave of null space, an expanding void that consumed light, matter, and energy, leaving utter nothingness in its wake. And it was moving slowly but inexorably towards their galaxy. The harvesters hadn't just fought it. They had, somehow, halted it, or perhaps pushed it back, at unimaginable cost. And the orrery was now screaming that the ancient containment was failing. The aftermath was immediate and transformative. Humanity, the accidental tourists, were suddenly the most important species in the galaxy. Their DNA was the key. Their chaotic, unpredictable nature was now seen as a potential strength, a flexibility inherited from ancestors who had faced the unimaginable. Elder races, who had once pitied or dismissed humanity, now looked at them with a mixture of awe, terror, and desperate hope. Galactic policy towards Earth and its colonies changed overnight. Resources, technology, and research teams were poured into understanding human genetics, human history, both recorded and now, potentially, unrecorded, and the latent abilities that might be rekindled. Humanity itself was thrown into turmoil and a strange sort of collective identity crisis. Were they just humans, or were they the last remnants of a galactic shield? Were their instincts, their dreams, their very humanity, their own, or echoes of a forgotten, terrible past? A new legend was born, no longer of accidental tourists, but of the harvester's echo, the children of the shield. The galaxy held its breath, watching humanity, this young yet ancient race, as they stood on the precipice of an ancestral war they hadn't even known they were part of. Dr. Aris Thorne, the man who had just wanted to find some interesting anomalies, found himself a reluctant leader, trying to help humanity understand what it meant to be the galaxy's last, best, and most terrifyingly unprepared hope against the silent hunger from the void. The forgotten past was no longer forgotten. It was an oncoming storm.